And I also need to get set up technically. Just a minute, please. Is everybody enjoying their evening? Cool. Okay. Alright. What I'm about to read is in this zine. I only made 3 of them because I didn't have enough time. But anyway, yeah. This is from a collection of stories I have. It's called All That's Left. I have a website. You can listen to some of the tracks being read. So enjoy. Channel 770 had Hotbloods Saturdays every weekend of the month. They billed it as a double feature of independent erotic films, but for Channel 770, not actually a television channel, but an anytime subscription media stream, erotic meant explicitly pornographic, and it was a channel from the domes. All channels were from the domes. All channels sucked. And ordinarily for the domes, staying in on a Saturday night to stream porno would be considered a statement of social handicap, especially when you could just go to a sex party instead, duh. But for hired cyborgs assigned to desolate frontier duty, it was an alright way to spend an evening. Spending months at a time with a squad only 3 to 5 deep got old after a while. Sometimes jerking off by yourself was the best way to get a break. This Hotbloods Saturday was really shaping up. Someone at the broadcast hub had gotten their hands on a piece of quality smut, a mega high-res, full immersion production. After last Saturday's low-res single-stream amateur anal, it almost seems like an apology, while at the same time doing little to alleviate the latest rumors that even the mega corporations were running out of funds and cutting back on their production budgets and bandwidth alike. Must scare the dome-yaps real bad. Alone in her tent, Kay was about to make the most of this week's absurd blessing. Not that last week's poolside ass-fucking hadn't been appreciated, but it was so offensively predictable, and the hairless, manicured bodies looked ridiculous. This stuff on now, though, this high-production gem was top-notch. The syncing was multi-layer on all the bodies involved, and you could switch between just the neural stimulation, the emotional response, or a custom combination. A+ shit. These people knew how to make it egg, too. Knew how to tease. Maybe it was erotica. But then, how did this good kink get on the broadcast? Better not to question things. Their camp was just 4 corporate-issue base tents with optical camouflage, sitting like old stones in the dense silence of a toxic field in its burnt-out industrial slaughterhouse. No one could hear the moaning and the whimpering, the heavy spanking, the urgent, sloppy sounds of lips sucking and organs being stroked. Streaming porn direct to his cyberbrain didn't make a sound. For all Kay knew, her whole posse could be in the middle of a virtual orgy on the Sing stream, indirectly fucking each other's brains out. Having a corporate-issue prosthetic body that could handle a rich stream like that was definitely a perk, even if it distanced you from all the low-tech bodies back home. In their 4-person unit, Kay was captain, and her posse knew not to go looking for her when she was sealed in her tent. When they first started out together, she had occasionally asked one of them in for some old-style physical contact, but that didn't happen these days. Not since the first few lovers' quarrels when she decided the interaction between physical bodies created too many complicated relationships dynamics for their isolated pack. Given their inability to access recreational drugs, the option to Y-fuck her crew instead in virtual fantasy scenarios was most appealing, and it seemed pretty similar to sitting around and getting high with friends back home. Positive stimulation, stress relief. At least it seemed that way to her. Recently, though, they'd gone through some real bad shit that left everyone tender and wishing for the past. Their day-to-day experiences were becoming oppressively dismal, and they still had a long tenure to fulfill on the front. Depression was setting in. Raul, whom she was usually so close to, had become distant and unreceptive to any attempts at syncing for mutual stress relief. Meanwhile, she and Braga had been connecting on the regular in these lush virtual play scenarios, maintained by the vigorous combination of their imaginations. Braga liked to be topped, and she liked his submission. They never talked about it in the flesh. Sully, the third of her subordinates, was something else, though. That kid. It was a miracle that nobody had killed him by now. He was outrageously entitled, out of touch with reality, and the only one of the four of them that had become a surveyor for the hell of it. He was from the domes, and refused to acknowledge the fact that they represented the abominable last stand of the capitalist elite, always insisting that it was simply one of the safest places a person could live in this day and age. He was an agent of destruction, who only fucked manicured bodies and was bad at hiding his intense fear of acknowledging his privilege. But that was only after you got to know him. On the surface, he was charming and romantic, and highly skilled. Kay was still lurking on the stream, watching a muscly little cub writhe around. There was a slim chance that Sully was actually synced with that oiled-up cub, and the prospect of punishing him in such a removed way was oddly compelling. But no. After listening to Braga's recount of their patrol in Nalji, it sounded like Sully didn't even know about the streams, which she couldn't really make sense of. The streams were produced by the channels in the domes. Sully was from the domes. Sully didn't know about the streams? Which meant that he didn't care about them, or that he spent his alone time getting his rocks off some other way. What the hell did he get a surveyor body for exactly, if not to utilize all those hyper-tiered receptors? Kay would have mulled over this further, except that she was about to be dick deep in the hottest ladyboy on broadcast if she hopped on now, and there was a request to enter sigil, pulsing for attention on her tent flap. She reined in her connection with a huff. The moaning faded into the background of her inner monologue, receptors cooling back just her own body's input. Kay rose, pulling back the tent flap with a mild sneer, annoyed out of sheer principle at the interruption. "Well, look who it is," Sully's smirking face started in. "Of all people. Fuck do you want?" she glared, exaggerating her displeasure to see if he caught on. "Can I come in?" he asked, more like a favor than a subordinate request. Kay gave him an unamused stare down and then stepped back, impatiently gesturing him inside. In the moment it took her to turn around, he plopped himself down on her sleeping pad. She cocked an eyebrow at this and stood, arms akimbo, scowling. "I'm lonely, Captain," he explained at last. "Get the fuck out of here, that shit," she sneered, sucking her tongue. "Really, though?" He gazed up at her pleadingly. She stared at him as one might do a strange animal that was trying to convince you to take it in. Some misaligned part of her personality began rising up, suggesting she hear him out. Maybe he was lonely. Maybe he was actually going to process some emotions with her. Maybe, if she gave him the chance, Posse's morale could improve somehow. She crossed her arms. "Oh, I thought you might have Rollin here with you," he said next, oblivious. "Why would he be in here with me?" she asked through a clenched jaw. "This fucking kid." "I don't know," Sully shrugged. "I thought he was having a rough time lately and, needed company or something. I just wanted to see, I guess." "And guess?" "Yeah, just see." "All right, you saw. Time to go back." "Well, wait," he jumped. Kay waited for him to continue. He seemed nervous, but Sully was clever enough. He sighed at himself. "I guess I just wanted to see if you were busy." "For what?" "If you wanted to, hang out or something." What, chit-chat on the night like we're on a stoop or some shit? Come on, Sully, what the fuck is wrong with you? Get out of here. No, not like that, he pleaded, trying to buy time. "I don't know, I just figured you might want some company. A little tenderness, right? I realize you like Braga and Raul a lot more than me, but I just wanted to see if you wanted to try something again." "Like what?" Kay bit. Some physical stuff or something, he said, eyes imploring. "I thought you liked your women to have tits," Kay dished with a snort, repeating verbatim a line Sully had said to Braga the day before. She watched his gaze drop and his mouth open, searching for something to respond with until too much time had passed, and he looked up at her with an impish smile. Then, "Well, so what? I always thought we had a good time." Kay began to shake her head. She recalled the handful of times they had messed around secretly in the corners of offensively massive, perversely wasteful dome structures before they had been deployed on their first run together. That was before she figured out he was one of those old-fashioned types, ignorantly obsessed with the sensations of his own penis and unwilling to accept pleasure elsewhere. A square. Slowly, "Do you have a thing for me? Or are you just looking to get off?" She watched his face. He gave a non-committal shrug, still hopeful for action with the ambiguous motion. When she didn't respond to his passive-aggressive tactics, he realized he had miscalculated the situation. Suddenly, he was being yanked to his feet by his shoulder. She looked mad. "You're wasting my time, Sully, again." "I'm sorry." Ow! You know I don't like that. The tent filled briefly with the harsh echo of a smack. Sully quickly buried his face into his shoulder, but she gave him a hard jerk instead and forced him through the tent flap. To the outside. Dead silence and only starlight outside. His vision automatically adjusted and he could see her, eyes narrowed to slits with a mean set in her jaw. She tossed him forward, and next her reconstructed voice was in his head.
"Listen, this is the Time Factory with Dick in it. Go hop on 770's broadcast if you want to mess around it. Don't come to my tent again when you see it's off limits. Got it?"
A pout in the darkness. Sully said no more and crept back to his tent. He thought 770's broadcast was awful. Especially this week's. That freaky body-switching S&M stuff was nasty. A hot chick would just, grow a dick, and then you'd have to go down on it, and it was, whatever. You could never just have normal sex, ever. Sully was a dying breed, living in an immortal body. Back in her tent, under a wash of virtual sweat and skin, Kay wished for the dome's collapse.
What's your website?
My website is called cyborgmemoirs.com/left. Or you could just go to cyborgmemoirs.com. Or you could email me or talk to me. Tweet at me. Holler at my Facebook, myspace.com.
So, we were kind of flying by here, but I really appreciate everyone coming. Next